Once you've uploaded or created your floor plan in h2x, now you can start to look at designing your ductwork system. So to introduce you to the ventilation or the ductwork flow system tools, you have the drop down menu here that will either show as ventilation or ductwork, depending on the project locale you've selected when you've created the project. You'll then be able to choose between the different subsystems under the ventilation or ductwork flow system. You can add additional ones in the system settings, but for today we're just going to use the default ones. Now, you've also got your duct drawing tools to the right of that. You can draw risers that connect you between levels, and you can draw main, branch, and connection ducts. Multi-duct will allow you to run 2 ducts or any duct that you pick up off the plan when clicking on it. And you can also select your AHUs, different types of valves and dampeners, manifolds and custom plant on the equipment menu, and your different types of diffusers. To draw a duct, simply select one of the horizontal drawing duct tools, such as main duct, and start to draw it with a left click on the plan. Your first left click will set the starting point of that duct, and you'll be able to point your mouse in any direction away from that. Notice I'm drawing at a height of 2.4 meters above the level that I'm currently on, but you can change that by typing in H and typing in whatever height you want that duct to start running at. Every time I do a left click, I can then change direction and also change height. And that will be indicated by a small black horseshoe or a black line in the case that you've drawn a T off another piece of duct. If at any point you want to stop drawing your ductwork, you can hit escape. And if you ever want to start drawing from this piece of duct that you've already drawn, you can just select another duct tool, click onto it, and carry on your design. To add your AHU, you can go to the AHU drop-down menu here, where you'll be met with a few different options. Essentially, they're all the same piece of equipment with different default settings selected. If I select a indoor unit, I'll then be able to stamp that down on the plan wherever I need to with a left click. Using the arrows on my keyboard, I'll be able to rotate the inlet and outlet locations. In this case, supply is blue and the intake is green, so that would be my fresh air intake. A left click will stamp that down on the plan. And if I want to start to draw ductwork from that unit, I can use my duct tools and directly draw from the connection height of that AHU that can be altered within its system settings. The reason that h2x splits the ductwork into mains, branches, and connections is that you can have different sizing parameters and materials set for these different types of ducts. So, for example, I might have a main duct coming out of my AHU and into the main corridor, where I might branch off to the right and to the left. And then I might run individual branches into each of my offices. If I want to trim down any of the elements on this design, I can just click individual elements and hit delete on my keyboard, or I can hit delete on the menu to the right here. Another option is to do a right click, hold the right click, drag a selection box over the top of the duct you want to select, and then again, either hit delete here or hit delete on your keyboard. When you're holding the right click and dragging, if you go from left to right, it will select everything inside the box. If you go from right to left, it will select everything the box touches. To add load onto this system design, you need to add some diffusers and then set the flow rates at those diffusers. You can choose from square, slot, or circle, horizontal or vertical ducts. So for example, if I was to go for a square horizontal, that is how it would appear on the design. And if you look in the menu on the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, I can change the height of that diffuser and the connecting duct by using the arrows on my keyboard. and a left click will place it. You can add multiple diffusers at once, and it will snap to the closest piece of duct with a small piece of connection duct connecting the two. If I hover over multiple items, such as this diffuser here and this one here, I'll get some dashed lines, which will allow me to line those ducts up nicely. And then I can use my right click and drag to delete the excess. If you click onto the diffuser, you'll be able to change the flow rate mode to manual, where you'll then be able to set a peak flow rate demand at that diffuser. If you want to do this on multiple diffusers at a time, you can do a left click, then a right click, and select diffuser nodes either on this level or on all levels. Or you can click on all the diffusers you want to edit whilst holding control and do a bulk change. If you want to take one ducting arrangement, such as this one to the right here, and copy it into a separate space, you can use your right click and select, hit copy, hit paste. You'll then be able to left click and hold and drag this arrangement and connect it onto your main duct. You'll know that it's connected if the ducts go from being transparent to opaque, and you can see the flow direction showing here. Lastly, if you have done a ventilation loading calculation using the h2x rooms or spaces, you can add diffusers directly onto this, where they will then pick up and split the room load evenly between each diffuser in that space. Notice that h2x will split that load evenly between those two diffusers. If you want to copy this entire arrangement between floors, firstly, you can add a riser, which will allow us to connect another ducted system design on our first floor. If we go to the ground floor, do a right click and select all of our ducts on this level, hit copy, go to level 1, hit paste, where we will then be able to reconfigure our duct design and make it suit the new arrangement. I'm doing this by left click and dragging each individual duct. You can also add valves using our valve menu here, where you will have access to smoke dampeners, fire dampeners, VCDs, attenuators, and balancing dampeners. We have balancing dampeners on each of these here. The associated pressure drop and other calculation parameters will be added to the system design. Now, if we hit results, h2x is going to calculate the required duct sizes for each piece of ductwork and equipment on both levels. If we hover over this duct here, you can see that h2x has calculated a 200 millimeter internal diameter carbon steel duct with a velocity of 3.88 meters per second, a pressure drop of 4.87 pascals, and a peak flow rate associated with that duct of 122 liters per second. If we go to the one adjacent to the AHG, you can see that that's got a peak flow rate of 182 liters per second, also factoring in the first floor loadings. To change the sizing parameters, you can go to the system settings, systems, supply, where we can alter our materials, our maximum velocity and pressure drop settings, our duct shapes, along with minimum duct sizes, height to width ratios for our rectangular ducts, our elbow connection settings, and our T connection settings. Now, if we go back to the project and rerun our results, you can see how the system design has changed. and how we can get our supply fan duty at our unit.